Welcome to the Rush to Fail podcast. I'm your host, BJ Kermillion, and today I'm doing a solo run. I've missed a couple weeks and want to get back into the groove, and so had a couple people fall through last minute, and I do have an amazing lineup over the next 6 weeks. But there's a little gap right here. So I wanted to hop on, and there's so many thoughts that I've had over the past, couple of weeks, especially as I wrapped up The One Thing by Gary Keller. It's one of my favorite books. Highly recommend it, to anyone that hasn't read it yet. And so I'm going to be sharing some of the insights from there. If you want to cheat and not have to read it, I'll share some of the highlights for you. So those of you that don't enjoy reading, happy to do that. But before we get into that, it's funny. I wanted to talk about Kobe Bryant for a minute. So it's interesting. I growing up hated Kobe Bryant, like more than anyone, easily. It was Kobe Bryant, Tom Brady. Both of those guys despised him because honestly, they won all the time and they were on the wrong team. And so, every single year I just had to deal with the heartache that they would bring. And every single year, one of them in any given year was going to win the championship. And so, but Kobe Bryant specifically, I hated his antics. I hated, honestly, his face. Like, I hated every gesture he would make on the court, like the Mamba mentality. I just thought it was cheesy and, all that stuff. I honestly, I just couldn't stand him. So I imagine it was similar to like if I was a Utah Jazz fan back when Michael Jordan was at his peak. I imagine that's how all of them feel about him, and he's my favorite player of all time. So I get it from that standpoint, but still couldn't stand him. Then he retired, and then he started to grow on me a little bit, and it bothered me. I was like, no, I can't. But he basketball was not everything to him. I realized, like, it was definitely everything, I'm sure, for a long period of time. Obviously, he was obsessed with it. But he didn't want that to define him. He was very intelligent, incredibly intelligent. And he decided to, when he was done with basketball, he jumped right into business. He jumped right into motivational speaking. He's helping out coaching his daughter. Like, he did a lot of really cool things. And so I started to respect him, and I hated it. And it's the same thing with Tom Brady. Now that I listen to Tom Brady on, anything, on the radio, TV, podcast, he's such a smart guy, and I can't help but like him. But yeah, that's how I started feeling about Kobe Bryant. And so, it's now obviously, since he's passed on, it's like he's immortalized, and now I see these reels all the time, and inspirational stories. And I heard one recently by Chris Bosch. So Chris talked about his experience when he was younger in his career, the 2008, the Redeem Team, as they called them, where, the U.S. was embarrassed in the Olympics, the prior Olympic before that. And so they were sent there on a mission to take back the gold medal because that was just embarrassing, right? So I think a lot of us remember that time. And so Chris Bosch thought, okay, I want to set a good impression for my teammates. So he decided that he was going to wake up early, set his alarm, and be the first to breakfast. And so he gets up, he goes early in the morning to get his breakfast. And then lo and behold, there's Kobe Bryant sitting there, just tons of sweat running down his face. He's got ice on his knees. He's already finished a full-blown hard workout. And not to mention, Kobe Bryant had just lost in the finals, which I was very happy about, by the way. But yeah, he had just lost in the finals. And yet here he is at the Olympics setting the tone for everyone. And they knew, like, he meant business. He was there on a mission. He had a purpose, and he was going to dominate anyone that he went up against in the Olympics. And he had a phenomenal Olympics. In fact, Chris shared the quote that he said, "Legends aren't defined by their successes. They are defined by how they bounce back from their failures." And so I love that, Kobe Bryant had just lost, but you wouldn't know it from his actions the next day, right? Like he was immediately out there on the court and sweating by himself, trying to get better and better, even though he's at the peak of his, playing days. And so that honestly is a big reason why I called the podcast Rush to Fail. And I'm sure a lot of people look at that name, they're like, man, that's kind of a weird name, or why would you celebrate failure? And it's not so much that I'm celebrating the failure itself, it's the reaction to failure that I love. I'm obsessed with it. I love underdog stories. Anyone that's been dealt a difficult hand that has taken that and turned it around to become this incredible strength, and they're just resilient, and they find ways to just push through with their sheer grit. Those are the people that I want to surround myself with. Like those are the people that I want to hang out with and be around, and that I admire. I don't admire the people that have been given everything and have a silver tongue and might be a trust fund baby or whatever. Like they rub me wrong. I don't even want anything to do with them. Whatever, like I'll be nice to you, but I don't care to be around you. I'm not inspired by you. But the people that have like true grit, that have really had to work for everything that they've gotten in life, those are the people that I have incredible respect for. And especially the people that are already successful, already on top of the mountain, and yet they still push, like Kobe Bryant. That is probably the hardest thing ever for people to do on a consistent basis. And yet he is probably one of the best examples in sports. And, it reminded me too, just taking one more story with Kobe Bryant in the Olympics. His teammate was Pau Gasol. Pau Gasol is from Spain. And so they were going to play against them in the tournament. And so, or at the Olympics. And so he told his teammates beforehand, like, I want Pau. And he's like, I got him. Nobody, mess with him. Like, I got him. And he was the best player on Spain's team by far. And so they're about to tip off, and, Pau goes to shake everyone's hand. He's like, don't shake their hand. We are enemies right now. He just got into that mindset. And sure enough, the ball is tipped, and they start playing. And Pau Gasol sets a pick for his teammate, and Kobe Bryant makes a point to run straight through him and just knock him on the floor. And right off the bat, set the tone. All of his teammates were in shock, because there's his teammate. He loves his teammate, but he's not his teammate in the Olympics. And so he set the tone. And I love that just fierce competitive nature that Kobe Bryant always had. And honestly, I wish more people had that. It's hard to watch sports these days with everyone shaking hands and loving each other, and the bro hugs and stuff. I kind of love that. And so he's like one of the old school guys that just had that mentality, which I appreciate. So anyways, yeah, so that's a big reason why whenever I bring people on the show, I love to talk about, not so much like, of course I want to talk about their successes, and the people that I've been fortunate to have on the show have done incredible things in all walks of life. But there's a common thread with everyone. And really, it's like incredibly successful people just have a knack for being able to get knocked down and then immediately get right back up, and they just blow past failure. In fact, they look at failure almost like in a sick, twisted way of like, give me more, like the harder it is, like the more I want to push myself to improve. And so, yeah, I just love that mentality. And I've felt that, really the last 2 years with, having to restart a new business and, move out to Tennessee, move across country, and nothing's come easy. Nothing. And it's crazy. There's been months where I'm telling you, if a certain deal doesn't close, we're done, like we're shutting the doors. And that happened over and over and over again. But yet for some reason, I kept having this optimism that it's going to get better. Like we're going to break through, we're going to get through this wall. And once we break through it, we'll, look out. Like there's no looking back. We're going to get there. But I ran across someone the other day, and I got out of my car and whatever, I'm driving a Tesla now, just because I got tired of spending like $900 a month in gas because I commute all the time. And so he mentioned like, oh, what is this, the company vehicle? Or, he was just being funny and just having a good time. Like saying, oh, is this what you get if you work for your company? And he's like, it must be nice being a boss. I was like, not at all. And he was like, oh, I need to own my own business like you. And I'm like, you probably shouldn't. I wouldn't recommend it. It's not by any means what Instagram or whatever like makes it look. I used to always look at these business owners and be like, man, they're making so much money. They're so rich. They're millionaires, right? Like a millionaire, that used to mean something. And then you make $1 million and you're like, that's it. Like, this is way more stressful than I ever anticipated it being, having a net worth of whatever that number is for you. It's interesting that like, as a business owner, you don't even think about it, honestly, because you're just thinking about how do I grow and improve. And, it's a very competitive game between you and yourself. And it's so interesting because people will ask me when I do marketing, they'll say, who is your number one competitor? And every time I'm like, I couldn't tell you. I know what you're asking. I get it. And I know why you're asking the question. But to be honest with you, I don't have a competitor. Like, it's me. Because every single time when I look at money, money truly does not make me happy. It's not something that I'm all about the money by any means. Like, anyone that knows me will say that. It really is just a way of keeping score. That's it. All it tells me is, okay, you're doing good or you're doing bad, or you need to improve, or you better hurry up and improve, because if you don't, you're done. And so I kind of, I enjoy it. It's a game. And you got to be a little bit off in the head to want to be a business owner. And I think anyone that's an entrepreneur can probably agree with that. There's times I wish I was just a sales rep and didn't have to worry about anything. You could go home and turn it off, but it's always on. So anyways, those are just some thoughts that I had. Okay. So going back to the book, Gary Keller, The One Thing, so many lessons from it. And so I'm going to share a couple of them with you. One of them, though, that has just really stuck with me this year is going small. And it's something that I feel he wrote this book 20 years ago, probably. And I'm sure it was important then, but holy smokes, like, it has never been more important than right now in the world we live in, where, I was going through my phone the other day to find something, and within a 30-minute period of time, I had to go back to one of the apps that I had open, my notes app. And to get there, I scrolled through, I think, like 12 other apps on my phone that I just, without probably even knowing, I was checking, bank account, email, deals that we had coming in, like messaging the team and blah, blah, blah. There's so many things that I was going through to get to that. And it hit me like, man, we really are distracted. And so by going small, he talks about, look, every single successful person will tell you that you cannot start off with doing 12 businesses or 5 businesses at the same time. You have to do one business. You have to find one niche, and you have to, whatever that is, I don't care what it is. In my industry, what I've chosen to do, residential real estate, 1 to 4 units, turnkey residential property, sell to investors that are looking for a great product that has property management and all that dialed in. And it is that's our only focus. So everything we do is centered around improving the experience for the end user, the investor who's buying these homes from us. We want to make sure they have the best experience possible. And so that means we have to buy the best properties in the best areas, best cash flow. We have to get them great insurance, great rates, great management, great vendors, construction, materials, products, everything, apps. We look into everything to make the experience incredible for that, individual. And so it's always with the customer in mind. Like, how do we improve their experience? Because I do not want to do business with 50 people that buy one property every year. I want to do business with 20 people that buy 60, 70 properties a year that just continually come back because they had an incredible experience with us. And so it took me a while to figure that out. Like, I don't want to keep chasing down buyers. Like, that's not fun at all. I want to work with people that every time that they get a property, they think to themselves, okay, how do I go out and find another 20, 30, $40,000, whatever it is, so that I can get my next one? Because this is the best return on my investment and the least amount of headache and time, and it's predictable, and all those things. And so so now my focus as a business owner is hire quickly, hire the right people. I've also realized I am not a good hire of talent. I'm not good at it. And it's taken me 15 years to admit to myself I should not be hiring people. I'm just not good at it. So, and I think it's because there's probably a lot of reasons, but I think in general, I like people. I see the best in them, and I think that everyone can improve and all that. Whatever it is, I'm just not good at it, right? So I'm not a very good predictor of it. So what I've done is I've hired a business operations manager that he's just as straight shooter as they get, Army, very disciplined, and we'll just shoot it straight. So we'll interview people together now. Afterwards, I'll say, that was awesome. That was a good, I think they would be a great fit. And he immediately is like, not a chance. And here's why. And then he explains all the things that he pointed out. And I'm like, you're right. Those are all things that I totally missed. And so it's important to know what you're good at, what you're not good at. And then really everyone has like 2 or 3 things they're really good at. And I really think every single person has 2 or 3 things, some more, whatever. But I know for a fact everyone has at least one, So hopefully you're able to figure out what that 1 or 2 things are that you're just gifted at, and it comes natural to you. But you're not going to be good at 15 different things, and that's okay. So what I've learned is, okay, I'm good at a couple things. Everything else I'm hiring out. And so in the past, I would wait until everything was broken, and then I would hire when I just absolutely had no choice. Now I'm being proactive on it, and we're hiring the right people. And so another thing that I learned, and this wasn't in the book, this was actually from Cody Sanchez, who I would recommend everyone follow if you're on Instagram, and she has an email once a week as well, the Contrarian Thinker. Great email. She's very brilliant, and so she buys businesses. And so she had she was on a podcast, and she mentioned that there was a study that was done between 11 or 12 companies, and this is over 50,000 hours of studying people within these companies. And what they found was super interesting. So this goes to, and you can tell your kids about this, how important it is to surround yourself with the right people. So if you sit within 25 feet of an A player, someone that's high producer, right? Your production just by sitting next to them is going to increase by 15%. So that is strictly just you're around highly talented people. That alone is going to get you 15% smarter, which is wild. That's pretty cool, right? Now, same example, 25 feet from a poor performer, someone that is just kind of pulling everyone down, right? In a bad environment. If you sit within 25 feet of a poor performer, your production will go down 30%, double, which blew my mind, right? So like, that's such an interesting thing where if you think about it, it's so incredibly important to surround yourself with, great people. And that was something that I didn't pay enough attention to early on in business. And it's something that we are very obsessed about now is culture, right? Like, you have to get the right people that want to be here because they attract other people that are high producers that want to be here. And then you just start realizing like, hey, once we have our core values set and we hire based off of our core values, one of my core values actually has been, integrity within our company, and then growth mindset is another one. But one that I've realized that I didn't list as a core value, but is something that I'm very sensitive about and have been purposely seeking out people that do not have this trait is drama. I do not do well with drama. And so if someone comes in and I don't know who we're going to get from day to day and they're changing all the time, or they bring drama into the office, I don't have time for them. Like I'm to a point in life, I'm at an age where I just don't deal with drama anymore, and I just don't care. So that's something that I've learned over time, like really has impacted me in the past. And so I now am just like, I hire people that are not going to be drama, that are no nonsense. They show up, they just want to improve, they want to get better, they want to work, they want to grind. Like, those are my people, you know? And those are the people that I feel we are attracting in our business. And it is completely reflected in our reviews and the way that, you know, we interact with everyone. If you talk to one person on our team, everyone else would act the same way. And so it's cool to see how that has translated over. And so that study I just found was super interesting. So another thing that I picked up on, and this is actually from James Clear, who I follow, who wrote the book Atomic Habits. I think it's like the #1 best-selling book for like the last like 5 years. And it's incredible. Every time I open that book, it doesn't matter. Just pick a page. You're going to learn something profound. So he also has an email, by the way, if anyone wants to subscribe to it. So he said the surest way to guarantee to not have the life you want is to do what everyone else is doing. And he also said that who knows you is more important than who you know. And so he talked about like building a brand. And so I thought that was interesting, because I'm always like, your network is your net worth, and it's all about your Rolodex. It's all about your people in your contact list. Like every time you go to these events, you want to network with people, and you put this emphasis on, you know, making sure that you get in front of people. And it's all about like, who do I know, right? I've always thought that way, but he reversed that and was like, no, it's more about who knows you. And how do they know about you unless you have a brand, unless you've established a brand for yourself? And so that's also been something that I've been very purposeful about, is as I thought about the one thing, Gary Keller in his book says that you have to every single day ask yourself this question, and it can be in any capacities, you know, spiritually, physically, with work, family, you name it. You have to ask yourself, what is the one thing that if I were to do that today would make my life so that everything in the future will be easier moving forward? So what is that one domino that's going to knock down the next domino? And if you look at dominoes, by the way, like, which is kind of crazy, like, you know, if you imagine a small domino, it can knock down a domino that's like 5 times its size, right? And then you compound that and keep going. They're like, it doesn't take that many dominoes to get to a point where you're like to the moon, right? Like, it's like a small number. It was, I want to say it was like under 100. It was mind boggling to me, because it was just, you're timesing everything by 4 or 5, whatever that number is. But the point is, and I could be totally wrong on that, but just trust me, it's a smaller number than you think. The point though with that is, he's just saying that, look, keep it simple. It's all about knocking down one domino at a time. And you have to figure out what the right domino is to get to the next level. So some people get stuck in life because they haven't figured out that domino, and they are still stuck on, you know, they're in the safe place, right? And they're not going out and figuring out what's something really difficult, hard. What's a big goal, aspiration that I have, that if I want to hit that number that's so scary that it's stupid to even say it out loud, like let's say it's a revenue number and you really want to, you think you can make 1 million a year, but let's say your goal is 100 million or something crazy, right? Well, that's great, dream big, but if you want that goal, you got to do things that are just way outside of your comfort zone and what you're doing right now, which I think is smart to do. I really do. Like, it doesn't depress me. It's just is like, I need to sometimes shift my thinking and not think so much about what's attainable. What can I do? Maybe I increase by 10%, 20%. Sometimes it's important to ask yourself, like, what if I went out there and I was making, 100x what I'm making? Like, that is scary to think about, but yet there's people that are doing it that are regular people. It's just they have found ways to rig the system, right? And shortcut things. So couple more, I guess, bits of advice that I thought were super interesting. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to share, I don't want to go too long on this. So there was a book written by Bronnie Ware in 2012, and it is the top 5 regrets of the dying. And so my birthday is, let's see, what is it today? The 16th. My birthday's in 2 days. So I'm getting older. I'm in my 40s, right? So now I'm like actually thinking about mortality, death, like, and it's weird. Like I don't know if you guys are the same way, but I'm thinking a lot more about death for some reason. And I look back and like, okay, what would happen if I were to die today? Like what would I be remembered for? And that's kind of a scary thought to have. Because there's so many things I feel like I need to be better at. So anyways, they went through what are the 5 things when asked people that were on their deathbed, what were the top 5 themes for what people would most regret in their life on their deathbed. So in descending order, number 5, I wish that I'd let myself be happier. Too late, they realized that happiness was a choice. Man, that resonated with me. I think so often we're like, when I get to this point, then I will be happy. And it's like, no, you can be happy right now. You don't need to wait till a certain event happens. So let yourself be happier. Okay. Or you're going to regret it. So that's number 5. Number 4, I wish I'd stayed in touch with my friends. I am probably the most guilty of this, and it sucks. Like I truly feel bad. Um, and it's one of those things where I'm like, man, there's so many things I want to get better at. I don't know where to start. But that is one of them where, how hard is it just to shoot a text to one of your buddies from college or high school and just say, hey, how you doing? So I need to be better at that. But that was number 4. Number 3, I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. Too frequently, shut mouths and shuttered feelings weighed too heavy to handle. And so have those hard conversations and just be honest with people, be real. Like, I think people have so much more respect for you when you don't dodge important conversations, especially in like a relationship. Let's say it's going south, like have the courtesy to have like a real conversation. They will respect you so much more if you take the time to actually have those hard conversations. If you don't have the hard conversation now, it's going to be 10 times worse down the road. So, yeah. Number 2, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I think that this list is like probably what I would honestly say at this point in my life. If I were on my deathbed, let's say I had cancer or something, and they asked me, hey, what are your top regrets? Honestly, it's crazy reading this because it stood out to me. Like I was like, yeah, my wife the other day, hopefully she's okay with me sharing this, but she just said, look, I know that you're trying, I know you're working, I know why you're doing what you're doing with your business and trying to be better at, and helping our family. And I know it's stressful to make money and take care of us. And we got a large family and all that stuff. But to be honest, like, I want you, like, I want more of you here. Like, I want your thoughts. Like, I want your brain to not always be thinking about work and what you're doing there. I want it to be focused on the family a little bit more. Like, is that too much to ask? And I was like, shoot, definitely dropped the ball there, because she's right. When I'm at home, there's so many times where I'm not at home. I'm thinking about what do I need to be doing better at work, and it's always work related. I mean, if you ask me at any given time, what are you thinking about? It's pretty much real estate, business, like money. So yeah, that was just a good wake up call for me that I don't think I'm going to regret spending more time with my family. I really don't. So, um, yeah, that was number 2. And then number 1, um, the number 1 regret, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Half-filled dreams and unfulfilled hopes. This was the number 1 regret expressed by the dying. As Ware put it, most people had not honored even a half of their dreams and had to die knowing that it was due to choices they had made or not made. So when people look back on their lives, it is the things that they have not done that generate the greatest regret. So that was also interesting too. I think when we look back on our lives, it's going to be the things that we didn't do that we're like, why didn't I go to that on that trip with my wife to Europe? Or, we always wanted to do this and we were saving up for 30 years so that we could do this for what? Some people die without even getting a chance to live out their dreams and aspirations that they've had as a child. And so, anyways, I thought that was really impactful. Hopefully that helps you guys too. Maybe there were some things there that stood out that you want to work on and improve on. Um, it's such a good book. If you guys want to read, the one thing, like I would read one chapter every morning, and it was just, I don't know, it was super helpful for me. Um, he also had one more story that, here we go, that I'll finish off the podcast with. So one evening, an elder Cherokee told his grandson about a battle that goes inside of all people. He said, "My son, the battle is between two wolves inside us. One is fear. It carries anxiety, concern, uncertainty, hesitancy, indecision, and inaction. The other is faith. It brings calm, conviction, confidence, enthusiasm, decisiveness, excitement, and action." So the grandson thought about it for a moment and then meekly asked his grandfather, "Which wolf wins?" The old Cherokee replied, "The one you feed." And so I look at that and I'm like, okay, how true is that on a daily basis? We've got these fears that creep into our brain. But you know what? Faith and fear cannot exist at the same time. They cannot coincide together. They can't be together. It's like light and darkness. And so the one that wins and the one that wins, I guess, the battle is the one that you feed, the one that you constantly are thinking about. So if you're constantly worrying about things and worrying things that are out of your control, guess what? You're going to be depressed. It's going to be a difficult, journey for you. But vice versa, if you have a life of faith and if you live with that mentality of optimism and hope, and you work towards your goals, um, you're going to be happy. So it's so interesting, isn't it? Like how simple life actually can be if you boil it down and just simplify things. And I feel like as you get older, that's one of the things that happens. They even did a study where they've realized that, people in their 25 to 45 range, that is when they are the most depressed. That's when they realize they're not going to be a billionaire. They're not going to fly to the moon. They're not going to have a cologne named after him. They're not going to be this sports star, athlete, superstar, whatever. And they have kids and they have jobs and it's stressful and all those things, right? And but it's funny because then it's not until later in life, like this older Cherokee, where you start to get perspective and you start to realize life is short, and you start to realize it's not about money, it's not about fame, it's not about all those things you thought were so important as a child. It really is not about those things, right? And it's more so about your family and your relationships and your friends. Who have you impacted for better? What have you done today? Have you done any good in the world today? Those are things that we should be asking ourselves. And if you can just say, yes, like I helped one person in need today, that's it. Like your day was a success. Everything else is icing. And it's the same thing with business. I've realized like all I have to do really is 2 or 3 things that are incredibly important to help move the needle for my business. the rest is just bonus. And so I'm working to simplify life in that way. And by doing so, I feel like I've been much more effective and useful with my time. So again, hopefully this helped you guys. And if it was a lot of rambling, I apologize, but there's been a lot on my mind lately. I really do enjoy the podcast so that I can share these thoughts, and if for anything, hopefully my kids at one point will enjoy listening to their old man and some of the thoughts that he had and what he was going through at different stages of life. And so hope everyone is really enjoying the new year. 2024 is turned out to be a really cool year, and it's only going to get better. I'm sure of it. And hope you guys feel the same way and are doing well. All right. Thanks so much.